record this. As we've been doing for the last 6 weeks, every Wednesday, we're going through the Mike Ferry 21-point sales system. We're going through each topic and going through a list of points on each particular topic. So we're now at today, week 6 of the 21-point sales system, which is the listing presentation. So I know we talk about the listing presentation a lot. You know what the listing presentation is, but hopefully there's something here today that either brings some value of, wow, I didn't think of it that way, or, oh, that makes really good sense. And there's probably going to be a number of things that you've heard before, but we're looking for that 1 or 2 things that really kind of hit you for today. So I got a list of points here. As always, they're not written down in any particular rhyme or reason. It's just the way they're written on the paper. You decide what's the most valuable point for you and then go from there. So let's jump into this, the listing presentation. First thing I put down, Mike Ferry 101, when it comes to the listing presentation. They always give the listing to the person who earns it, not the person who needs it. They always give the listing to the person who earns it, not the person who needs it. You will earn it through good skills. They always give it to the person who earns it, not the person who needs it. You will earn it through good skills. All of you know that, because the truth is there are a lot of agents that need the paycheck more than you do. There are a lot of agents that haven't had a paycheck in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. Some agents don't even know that you're allowed to get paid in real estate. That's a totally different category. We'll work on those. But the sellers still don't give them the listing, even though they're the ones who need the money more than you do, some of you. But you earn it. You have the skills, and there's a variety of different skills that go into that, but you have to keep that mentality in there. The reason that this is so important, I wrote down a couple of notes underneath it. The reason this is important is, number one, that means you cannot take your past clients and centers of influence for granted. Has anyone here ever been guilty of assuming that one of your past clients, centers of influence, would just give you the listing and then they didn't? Anyone here guilty of that? Just me, Patty? Everyone else is lying. So it happens to everybody. So don't take your database for granted, because again, they will give it to the person who earns it, and you still have to earn it with your database. I wrote down here, because they give it to the person who earns it and not the person who needs it, you need to watch your tonality, because you don't want to come across as desperate. I'll work really, really hard. I really need this deal, and hey, it's not going to work. Or another way to put that, as you've heard this term before, is that you come across with commission breath. I'm just doing this because I need the money. It's all about the money. It's not about the person. Okay. So you have to be very conscious of this one point here, is that they give it to the person who earns it, not the person who needs it. Now, I wrote down here number 2, because we talked about you have to earn it through good skills. Record your presentation on a regular basis as a way to improve your skills. Some of you do this a lot. I get a number of presentations. Melinda sends me a presentation all the time. Trina sends me her presentation. I get presentations from Yulin. Other people that we have, Marjana, I get presentations from her. I get presentations from Nancy DePrey. I get presentations from a number of people on their listings. And then some of you probably send it to Neil or accountability partners, things along those lines. I stopped getting Jack's because I don't speak Chinese and he refuses to do one in English. But what are you going to do? But record your listing presentation. That's how you get better. And some of you think, oh, I don't like the camera. If you don't like yourself on camera, how are you going to like yourself in front of actual people? That makes no sense to me. I don't like how I look on camera. The camera's better. You can edit things. So get over this camera thing. I don't like the way my voice sounds. Okay, well then we can work on that. We can work on tonality. We can work on different fluctuations and things along those lines, so that when you're in front of someone who actually can give you money, You don't have to worry about the way your voice sounds or being in front of a camera and things along those lines. Record your listing presentation, and that is a great way to improve your skills. I wrote down, you don't need like some Hollywood production. Well, how do I record it? Well, if you do it on Zoom, you just hit the record button. If you're doing it with someone live, get your phone out, record it on your phone. I mean, phones nowadays have these capabilities of doing this stuff. Upload it to a Google Drive and share it. Okay, it's not complicated, but I understand it can be complicated if you're not tech savvy or you've never done it before. So get with someone like Jesse or Jocelyn, they'll help you out with that. All right, I wrote down here number 3. It is common to ask sellers why they didn't list with you. Why not ask them why they did to build your confidence? It is common to ask sellers why they didn't list with you. Why not ask them why they did to build your confidence? So if you interview for a listing and they decide to go with someone else, you should ask them in a nice way, what was it about the other agent that led you to picking them? Okay. You know, the way I would always love to phrase it is, look, I really appreciate the opportunity to interview. I'm always trying to get better and learn. So would you mind telling me what it was that I can improve on so that maybe I can get the next listing appointment I go on? Ask them why they didn't list with you. Sometimes they're not going to be honest, but sometimes they will. But to this point, ask them why they did. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I really appreciate you allowing me to list your home. And, I'm just curious. I know you had a lot of different options. What was it about me that gave you the confidence that I could give you the best service? Because then they'll tell you what you did. And now you have that little extra confidence builder. Plus, you now know what's important to them. And if it's important to them, who else is it important to? The next people, chances are. Because sometimes you don't even know what it is about you that they like. I could say, you know what? I think people listen to me because they love my energy. And then I could talk to other people and they go, yeah, I don't really give a crap about your energy. I like that you do X, 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 and X. It happens to all of us. So don't assume that, well, they listed with me because of this. Ask, find out what it is that they like about you so then you can highlight that on the next people. All right, I wrote down here, always follow the 5-step listing process. Now, a lot of you know the 5-step listing process, and we won't go too detailed into this, but you always follow the 5-step listing process. But I want you to underline, highlight, put a star next to whatever the word always. Always follow the 5-step listing process. Well, it's a past client, Robert. This is really a come list me. Follow the 5-step listing process. This home's going to sell in like 2 days. Follow the 5-step listing process. This is my family member. Follow the 5-step listing process. Always, always, always. Because remember, you're not just showing them your qualities to take their listing. You're showing them the qualities for them to be able to refer you other listings. It's not just about this one. Let's be honest. Are there some listings that you could take and you know it's going to sell in 2 days? Are those listings? So the mentality sometimes is, well, I'm not going to go crazy on this. I don't need to do all the 5-step process, the pre-qualify. This is going to sell in a couple of days. You're only focused on that listing. You're not focused on the next one. You need to show 100% A+ quality, even if you know it's a past client, come list me, it's going to sell in 2 days. Because they'll list with somebody else the next time. Don't ever give the client the opportunity to think that maybe they can get better service somewhere else. Don't ever give them that opportunity. And if you don't always follow some of these processes, you're giving them the opportunity to think maybe the service is better somewhere else. Oh boy, you want to find yourself in that spot. So the 5-step listing process, real quick. Number 1, pre-qualify 100% of the people before you go out. Pre-qualify 100% of the people before you go out. 100% of the people. 100% of the people. Not some of the people. 100% of the people. Okay. It determines their motivation. It determines if they're serious or not. Who here has ever driven 35, 40 minutes to a listing presentation just to find out that they weren't a real listing client? Then you have to drive 35 and 40 minutes back. Son of a bitch. The whole time going, the whole time driving home. This was like an hour and a half. They're not even going to list. It happens. We've been there. We've all been there. Pre-qualifying determines if they're serious or not, determines their motivation. Maybe you don't even need to go out there. It gives you their concerns and objections ahead of time. For example, one of the pre-qualifying questions, have you ever thought about selling it yourself? Wouldn't it be nice to know if they've thought yes to that question? Have you ever considered selling the property yourself? Yeah, actually, I am thinking about it. Okay. That's nice to know. That way I can come prepared. What price are you thinking? Well, Zillow says $850. Okay, now I know that they're looking at Zillow for their price. Little things I can learn with pre-qualifying. Wrote down here, it demonstrates your professionalism. Why? Because all other professionals pre-qualify. We talked about this Monday. Doctors pre-qualify, attorneys pre-qualify, financial advisors pre-qualify. All these people pre-qualify before they give their opinion or their advice. It just demonstrates your professionalism. All right. And for those of you that like to build rapport, this gives you more information for building rapport. So that's number one. Number two on the 5-step process is mail or deliver a pre-listing package. Mail or deliver a pre-listing package. Again, well, Robert, they've seen my pre-listing package. I've listed with them before. Send it again. You should treat them as if this is the first time that you've worked with them, and they deserve, again, that A+ 100% customer service. Mail or deliver a pre-listing package. Pre-listing package has your plan of action, some references, track record or the company's track record, a CMA, a net sheet, contract, basics in there. Okay, send them that information. Okay, number 3, call back to confirm the appointment and that they have received the package. And while you're doing that, make sure that they're going to be there at that time, and all other decision makers are also going to be there at that time. Just wanted to call to make sure that you received that package. Yeah, I got it. Okay, great. So are we still good for Thursday at 6? Yes, great. And all decision makers are going to be there, correct? Correct. Cool. Call back to confirm. Number 4, show up physically, emotionally, and mentally a little bit early. Get there early so you can calm yourself down. You can mentally prepare. You never want to be rushing to the door. And then number 5 is follow the scripts verbatim. It's showtime. Always have a copy of the scripts with you just in case you forget a line. Okay, but always follow this process. Because remember, here's the deal with the 5-step listing process. There's a couple different scenarios. If you follow the 5-step listing, there's 2 agents. If you follow the 5-step process and the other agent doesn't, you're automatically a step ahead to get the listing. That's the best case scenario. You don't do the 5-step listing process, the other agent does, they're now a step ahead of getting the listing, which means to then catch up to them, you're probably going to have to offer a lower commission or a higher price. Or you do the 5-step listing process and the other agent does the 5-step listing process. Now you're at least even going into it. 3 scenarios, 1 you win, 1 you tie, and 1 you lose. Just makes total sense to complete this every single time. Okay. As Mike Ferry would say, if you think these 5 steps don't apply to you, your ego is generally in the way. Okay. Wrote down here next, create a pre-appointment routine. Don't just go to the appointment. Well, my appointment's Saturday at 6. So it's 5:45. It's going to take me about 15 minutes to get there. All right, let's go. Pre-appointment routine, which could be getting your mindset in order, practicing your presentation, making sure you have all the proper materials prepared, make sure you're early, make sure you know their name. Don't act like I'm the only one that's happened to. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. So glad to be here. Can't wait to get your home on the market and get it sold. We have one of our agents actually told me yesterday that when someone gives them their name, they know sign language. They do their name in sign language behind their, she puts her hand behind her back and does their name in sign language as a way to remember their name. I don't know sign language, so, but little things you could do. But have a pre-appointment routine. Don't just show up. Okay. Athletes have pre-appointment routines, don't they? Before the game, they get out there and warm up a little bit. Dancers get out there and warm up a little bit. Musicians get out there and kind of warm up a little bit before they take the stage. People have pre-appointment routines. I wrote down here next, remember that first impressions are critical. This includes everything from the clothes that you wear, how well you're groomed, if your shoes are shined, the smile on your face, the strength of your handshake. Think about upgrading everything. First impressions are critical. This is what it is. As soon as they open the door and see you, actually, really, as soon as they see you walking up the driveway, because that's typically when they're already going to notice you, before you even get to the door, they already have an impression of you that could be good or bad. And if it's bad, then you're facing an uphill climb to get the listing. Well, Robert, I got my Chuck Taylors on, right? Got my Converse on with my jeans, my shirt, and a sports coat. Look, I'm all for it. That's a decent looking outfit if you're going out on date night. Not a really good outfit if you're going to take a listing. I got short sleeve polo shirt on. I got my jeans. My shoes are clean, but they're just, some regular Vans. It's not going to do that. Some people go in like their kind of workout outfits, the jogging suits and stuff like that. Can't do that stuff, man. You have to play the part. You have to dress the part. You can't walk up to the door, walking up the driveway like this, head down, shoulders down. You're walking up the driveway. You got a smile on your face. You're up. It's like, boom, confidence. Let's go. Right away, they go, there it is. First impressions are critical. You have to remember that. Well, Robert, it's 2021. We shouldn't be judging people. All right. You see how long that goes. It's what it is, folks. Come on, let's be honest. All right, the next point I wrote down here, listen to the prospect with the intent to understand what they are saying versus listening to them so you can make a quick response. Listen to the prospect with the intent to understand what they are saying versus listening so you can make a quick response. You're listening to really, I'm not worried about what to say next. I'm listening to really get the information. I know the next line is this. I'm not worried about that. I'm listening to really fully understand what they're telling me. It's a very key thing that sometimes we just go to the next line. Sometimes we're so focused on the script, we're just trying to get to the next line. Okay. Here's an example. How do I know this happens? Here's an example. Okay. Here's an example. You call the for sale by owner, and when you're pre-qualifying, you ask them if they've ever considered selling it themselves. That is, you're not listening with the intent to understand. You're listening to make a quick response. Happens. I wrote down number 9, knowledge equals, or whatever the next number is. Knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear. Knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear. Sellers do not want to hire an unknowledgeable or unconfident agent. They want to hire someone that's knowledgeable. They want to hire someone that's confident. That comes from knowing what to say and how to say it. That comes from knowing the market stats, the market information. That's why Neil asks every morning, do a quick little CMA of your marketplace. That's why we constantly talk about knowing info sparks. You have to know what's going on in the neighborhood. That's why we talk about previewing property. They want someone who's confident, someone who knows what's going on. The more you know what's going on, the more confident you will be. I wrote down here under this point, you don't have to live in the area to know the area. Okay? Because some sellers want the neighborhood expert, right? We've heard this. Well, they live in the area, you know, they know the area really well. I want someone who's a neighborhood expert. You don't have to live somewhere to be an expert somewhere. Okay? If you know the stats, you look at the information, you know what's going on, you can know more than a lot of other people. So always know that you can be more knowledgeable about an area than the so-called neighborhood expert. Ridiculous. All right, I wrote down here next on the listing presentation, a great listing presentation is asking great questions, not telling them what you think. All about asking questions. We did a whole thing Monday about asking questions, so I'm not going to talk too much about this. But remember, that's all about asking great questions. Okay? Let the seller know that they and you don't set the price of the home. The buyers set the price. You do not, they don't set the price. You don't set the price. The buyers set the price. Well, I want $950 for my home. Okay, great. The buyers will tell us if the home is worth $950. And if we get $950, then that's what the home's worth. If we get $975, the buyers think it's worth even more. But if we get $900, that's what the buyers think it's worth. It's not what I think. It's not what you think. It's what the buyers are willing to pay. That's what sets the price of the home. It's not the market. It's not anything like that. It's the buyers. Now, this removes the blame from you as an agent when asking for a price reduction, which is why it's really important that you have this conversation with the seller up front, not later when you're going for the price reduction. Because by that time, it's too late. They don't listen to you. They just think that you're not doing your job. Set the boundaries up front that it's the buyers. Okay. I wrote down here, work under the assumption that because of your pre-qualifying, you can use the 1-minute presentation and it will work. I want everyone to really think about that line. Work under the assumption that because of the pre-qualifying, you can use the 1-minute presentation and it will work. I mention this because a couple of reasons. Number one, there are some people, and probably some of you on here, and it is what it is. It's not a bad thing. It's just the truth. Some of you don't think the 1-minute presentation is a real thing, that it's this mythical thing. No one does a 1-minute presentation. Does it happen a lot? No. Does it happen? Yes. But some people don't think it can happen. Or number two, they kind of think that it can happen, but it can't happen to them. So they do the 1-minute presentation like this. I wrote down 3 real important questions for you. Do you absolutely have to sell your home? And they're just kind of walking through it because they know that the client's not going to say yes, yes, and yes. You have to go in with the mentality that I pre-qualified at a really high level. I answered all of their questions. I gave them a pre-listing package with my plan of action, the CMA, the net sheet. They have everything they need to make a decision. So I should be able to go in confidently and do a 1-minute presentation with the thought that they might say yes, 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 and yes, sign the contract. It's a mindset shift. Worst case scenario, you're going in with a superior mindset that I am overqualified for this. So if I do a 1-minute presentation, I might get the contract signed. And if they happen to say, no, I want to hear more, I'm still up here from a confidence level, as opposed to walking in with the, I'm never going to get the 1-minute listing presentation. So let's just run through these questions real quick. I'm now here, and then I have to go up to here. It's a mindset shift that you have to take with this 1-minute presentation, but it only works if you've done the pre-qualifying and the 5-step listing process. Because if you haven't pre-qualified, you can't do a 1-minute presentation. You don't know enough information. Do you absolutely have to sell your home? Yes. Do you want to price your home to sell? Or do you want to keep it on the market for a long period of time? No, we want to price it to sell. Do you want me to handle the sale for you? Well, I'm not quite sure. You don't even know where I'm moving yet. Oh, that's right. I didn't do any of the pre-qual questions. I guess we should go over that. Where are you moving? What time do you have to be there? Well, I don't even know. What do you do to sell homes? Oh, that's right. I didn't send you my pre-listing package with my plan of action. Then you can't do a 1-minute presentation. Okay. Do the 5-step listing process and go in with the confidence that you can do a 1-minute listing presentation. Again, it's not going to happen often, but it will happen. It will happen. See it happen all the time. All right, I wrote down here next, be enthusiastic and energetic during the presentation because logic makes them think and emotion makes them act. Be enthusiastic and energetic during the presentation because logic makes them think and emotion makes them act. Okay, it's all about creating that emotion, that excitement, that enthusiasm. Now, I've heard some people say, well, you know, if you're not that enthusiastic or energetic, you can always fake it. Robert Hertel 101. That is a bunch of crap. If you can't get enthusiastic and energetic going on a listing presentation, find a new job. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being honest. Sometimes that's part of coaching and training. Well, I can't really get enthusiastic and energetic. What the hell are you doing in sales? Go work customer service somewhere. Go do IT somewhere where you're just sitting down playing computers. You don't have to do anything. Come on. Now, I know you don't need to be me. I can't be that energetic. I don't want you to. You'll probably annoy the seller. But you have to be energetic. You have to be enthusiastic about what's going on. It's crazy to me when people say, oh, just fake it. What the hell? Come on. What are we doing here? Be enthusiastic and be energetic. Have some excitement in yourself. Have some excitement in your voice, a little pep in your step. That's what they're looking for. I wrote down here, this is one of my favorite comments when it comes to energy and enthusiasm. Josh Barker, those of you, some of you know Josh Barker. Those of you that don't, he's an agent up in Northern California in a town called Redding, where I'm not being sarcastic. It's not a town that has a lot of people. It's a very, very small town in Northern California. There's not a lot of sales, but he does them all. I mean, him and his team, I want to legitimately say like him and his team have like a 40% market share. It's crazy up there. And he said something when it comes to the energy enthusiasm about a listing presentation is that this is the most important part of their day. They deserve your absolute best energy and focus. They've been thinking about this the whole week since you set the presentation. Oh, Robert's coming over. Are we ready? Is the house clean? Do we set something up? Do we need to give him like coffee? Do we offer him something to drink? Do we need to set out like any like snacks or anything? Okay, is everything good? We're only going with this price, right? And this is still like 2 days before you're coming. They've been thinking about this. Okay, they're consistently looking out the blinds. Every car that drives by, is that him? Is that him? Like they're thinking about this. They deserve your best energy, your best enthusiasm, your best focus. They deserve it because that's what they've been going through for the entire week. Crazy stuff. But sometimes we have to convince people to be energetic, enthusiastic about going on a listing presentation. If nothing else fails, just think of the money you'll make. Well, Robert, I don't do it for the money. Okay, then think about how much money I'm going to make when you do it. Okay, so let's think of it that way. Do it for me.
Robert, could I say something?
Yes.
I was just thinking about that. You know, some of them go into the listing presentation, not even thinking about interviewing any other agents. Like they're going to go with you no matter what, but you still have the obligation, like you said, to give your A game, because they're going to be worrying and thinking about it and stressed out. And when you're relaxed and on your game and present the things that you need to, then they're going to feel more comfortable, confident that you got their back.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a great point. It's a great point. 100%. 100%. Yeah, you have to go in with that mentality. You know, they're looking for that. This is a very highly stressful moment for them. Even if it is your past client, best friend, parents, whatever the case may be, it's still stressful, you know, and you got to go in with everything you got. They deserve that and they need that. They absolutely need it. Great point, Ruben. Thank you. All right, I wrote down here next, a poorly scripted presentation with great energy and enthusiasm can win a lot of the time. A poorly scripted presentation with great energy and enthusiasm can win a lot of the time. A well-practiced, well-rehearsed, scripted presentation with energy and enthusiasm works all the time. The energy enthusiasm can make it. Now, some of you, English might not be your first language, might not be your second language. For some of you, might not even be your third language. Some of you speak like 4 or 5 different languages. It's crazy. Okay. I have a hard enough time with one. Okay. So some of you speak like 4 or 5. It's nuts. So for those of you where it's the script, for example, is the tough part because it's, you know, English is not your first language. I get it. The energy and enthusiasm carries you a long way. And then still working on the script. I mentioned this on Monday, Nora Avalos, Queens, New York. The best example. Been here for 30 years, came from Colombia, still has a heavy Colombian accent, still speaks very broken English, even after 30 years. But yet in her career, she's made over $10 million in commission. Well, Nora, how do you do that? Well, I tell you, she's got this big smile on her face, this big, I just go talk to every single person I know, and I ask them who wants to buy or sell, and I just have a bunch of energy, enthusiasm, I keep a big smile on my face, and I just keep going talking to more and more people, and then I just keep making all kinds of money. Yeah! Go, yeah! So for those of you that, you know, maybe English isn't the first language, and it's like, you know, the script is tough because it doesn't flow well for me because this isn't my first language. You can do it. Energy and enthusiasm can get you past a lot of that stuff. Okay. Now still practice the script because again, you know, when you get better at it with the energy and enthusiasm, then you're unstoppable. But that's just a great example of how energy and enthusiasm can really take you a long way, regardless of if English is your first, second, third language, whatever the case may be. All right. A few more points here. I wrote down here. Okay. When the presentation goes over 30 minutes, your conversation shifts from selling to telling. When the presentation goes over 30 minutes, your conversation shifts from selling to telling. This means you are less likely to get the listing. Okay, so you have to really, but this comes from practice. The presentation part itself, not the going over the disclosures and walking around the house and all that other stuff. The presentation start itself is really a 10 to 15 minute process. Okay, going through the presentation. Now, if they sign the contract and you're going through disclosures, don't worry about how much time it takes. All right, they want to show you the property again, whatever. That's a different story. The presentation should only be 10 to 15 minutes itself, and then go from there. When you're doing the presentation portion and you're 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you're talking too much. You're going off on tangents, or typically what happens, they ask a question and you take that question and go down a path that's way off script, and then you have to try to get it back, and it's a little bit of a detour. Now, here's the thing. It's happened to every single one of us at some point. Okay. So it's not the end all be all. We've all had it happen, and not just the expressives. Okay. The analyticals, the amiables, the drivers, everyone's gone on a presentation that's taken an hour. Everyone. It is what it is. But you just have to be cognizant of that when the presentations are going so long, you have to say, wow, okay, there's something, I'm either talking too much or I'm letting them talk too much. I have to get this back in control. Okay. Because the longer it goes, the less chance you have to get the listing. This is a key point, even if they're the reason the conversation's going long. Well, Robert, I'm not taking the conversation off track. I'm just following the script, but they go off on these tangents. You have to bring it back. You have to bring it back, because even if they're the ones causing the conversation to go long, the presentation to go long, it still gives you a less chance of getting the listing. Don't be rude, but bring it back. Okay. I wrote down here next, motivated sellers want an aggressive agent, one who takes charge and understands the business and tells them the truth. They want an aggressive agent. That shows from the beginning, not the beginning of the presentation, the beginning of the prospecting. I wrote down under this point, the listing presentation starts the moment you get the lead. The listing presentation starts the moment you get the lead. What does that mean? Well, you did some prospecting, you got a seller lead. Instantly, your presentation is started, because now you have to do some aggressive lead follow-up. And if they're a motivated seller, they will see your aggressive lead follow-up and appreciate that to then set the appointment. Once you set the appointment, your aggression goes through of, I need to ask these pre-qualifying questions. And if they don't have time, you schedule another time to ask all the pre-qualifying questions. You send them a package. This is all part of the listing presentation. It starts from the moment you get the lead, because they want an aggressive agent. They want someone who's going to tell them the truth, the one who takes charge. Well, how do you take charge? I'm sending you right from the get-go my plan of action, the net sheet, and what the house is worth. From the get-go, this is right here. I haven't seen your home. Okay. We might not know each other. This might not be a past client center of influence. I'm already in charge. This is what I'm going to do to get the house sold. That puts you in charge, instead of not doing that and going, so, I was thinking about doing this for the open house. What do you think about that? Do you like this? Do you like that? That they're in charge. This is the steps I do to get home sold. This is the price. This is your net sheet. This is the commission, blah, blah, blah. That's someone who takes charge. Now, will they negotiate? Yeah. But the fact that you were in charge to begin with at least gives them like, okay, hey, I'm dealing with a pro. And you tell them the truth. Motivated sellers want the truth. Unmotivated sellers don't. Case in point, an expired listing. Case in point, an expired listing. Could the seller could the agent tell the seller that they could get that price? Of course, some agents are nuts. They'll do anything for a listing. They'll do anything to see their name on a sign. Robert Hertel, Century 21, look at me. I don't have anything to show for it. But they'll do it, right? And here's my best part. Here's the best part about that idea. I'll put my sign out there in hopes that I get leads. Because people love working with an agent that can't sell the house that their name is attached to. They love it. How much sense does that make? I'm going to get leads, except I can't sell the house that I have listed. So why would someone want to work with me? People are funny. Anyways, okay. So could a agent tell the seller that they could get that price? Of course they could. But the fact that at no point over that listing that the seller said, hey, we should lower the price, shows you that the seller's not motivated. Because if the agent said, yes, we can get you $850, and then 2 months go by and no one gives them $850, even if the agent didn't say anything and the seller was motivated, the seller would go to the agent and say, hey, Maybe we should drop it to 8. What do you think? The fact that they just said, no, we're going to sit here at 850 for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, they're not motivated. Motivated sellers want an aggressive agent who tells them the truth. I want to get 850. Mr. Seller, based on what I see tonight, I'm going to suggest a price of $800,000. Will you list your home with me for that price tonight? But I want 850. I want to win the lotto. You have a better chance of getting 800 than I do of winning the lotto. So you win. Okay. Tell them the truth. Be sure to practice the answers to all the objections you receive while qualifying. So when you're pre-qualifying, whether it be on the phone, actually during the pre-qual or during the setting the appointment process, when they give you an objection and you already know it, practice that objection over and over again before you go on the presentation. They kind of already told you what the objection is. You should be prepared. Now, that being said, there's only like 4 objections you're ever really going to get. So you should know 4 or 5 different ways of handling each objection anyways. Okay. Like, you know, if you work for Century 21, for example, they're not going to go, I've never heard of your company. Like, so I don't really need an objection handler for that one. Okay. So I'm not really worried about that. So you have to keep that in mind. Just focus on the objections you're going to get. What I wrote down here, okay, and these are the last couple points. I wrote down here when it comes to the listing presentation. The best objection handler is to not get objections. That's the best objection handler, is to not get objections. Now, Robert, you're not making any sense. That happens, but let me try to speak through this one. There is a direct correlation between the quality of your presentation and the number of objections you get. There's a direct correlation between the quality of your presentation and the number of objections you get. So if you want to get better at handling objections, start by getting better at the listing presentation, because you will then get less objections. Okay, so make sure you're focused on that. And then the last point I wrote down here, have the attitude that you are not leaving the seller's home until you have a signed contract. Have the attitude that you are not leaving the seller's home until you have a signed contract. Note, this attitude is easier to establish when you follow all of the above points. So what do I mean by have the attitude you're not leaving the seller's home until you have a signed contract? Will you list your home with me for that price tonight? No. Okay, well, it was worth a shot. And then you just say, all right, well, I'll call you later. Let me know if anything changes. No, I'm going to keep trying to close until they say, hey, go away. Because the chances of getting that a signed contract on a follow-up is not very likely. It's not a you thing. It's just the way it goes. So that's why we practice that little objection handler, the little one all the time. We want to think it over. Okay, no problem. Well, think it over. And if you have any questions, let me know. No, I'm with the mentality. I'm not leaving here without a signed contract. So I'm going to say, that's great. Since 3 minds are better than 2, let's think out loud together. Tell me, what are we thinking about? Because I've got to get the contract signed. I don't want to be a follow-up listing agent. I want to be a on-the-spot listing agent. Let's get this figured out. Just a different mentality. Questions on anything we went over? Nope. Good. Got it. Great. Okay. Perfect. Well, very good. All right. Well, good job, everybody. Thanks for sticking around.
Robert, I have a question.
I'm out of time.
Okay.
What's your question?
Okay, so you said it's the buyer who determines the price.
Uh-huh.
Is it okay